The following is a Roll Poll production. All right, sorry for being delayed there. I'm not gonna tell you what we were asking, or anyway. All right, another episode of the Motor City Metrics podcast here at TigersMLReport.com. I am Rogelio Castillo, same as Chris Brown, Ashley, and Mike. Uper is off for the evening, and I just want before we start, I wanted to give a kind of a moment of silence, or just kind of a proper nod to Andy Isaac, World of Isaac, who passed away today. And he's a guy who, if you're on Twitter or social media, even ESPN did a nice little tribute for him today. And I got a chance to meet him a couple times at Tigers games. When I got the job at Woodward Sports, he reached out and was very kind to me and just went out of his way to do that when he didn't have to. And sucks. Cancer sucks. I mean, it goes without saying. It just, yeah. So I just want to give the tip of the cap to him because he was a very good dude. And yeah, so yeah.
Dude, I never met the guy, but like it's weird how sad I felt when I read that he passed this morning. It was weird, like really how much of an effect somebody like that can have on, you know, a sports base in a city like this. So yeah, real sad. Hope he's finally got some rest though. He's been battling cancer for a really, really long time.
Yeah, since 2006. I only met him once, and it was with Raj at the Tigers when they had us, come down and try all the new food. And we sat at a table with him and Sean. No, who was it? What's Sean Windsor?
Sean Windsor, yeah.
Yeah, the four of us were sitting down at a table, and maybe some other people stopped by, and it was fun. We just talking sports. He was a cool dude. Obviously a huge bummer, and he's been dealing with this his whole life, or not his whole life, but basically, half his life. And actually, kind of my entree into any kind of public sports in Detroit was at the Sports Inferno message board, which would have been like 2005 to 2010 or whatever. And he was on there too. And so we interacted way back in the day, but it was, just kind of message boards. Message boards don't even exist anymore because they're so out of touch. But so, yeah, it's, you feel for the guy, you feel for his family, but he obviously left a huge impact on the area. And I don't know, to be able to do that as a fan and have all these people reach out and relate to you, I think is pretty remarkable. And I'm sure nobody will forget him.
I never had the pleasure of interacting with him, but all I've seen on Twitter are great things. So rest in peace and, prayers to his family.
Definitely. Yeah. It's like I said, it's one of those things where if you're on ESPN and there's no one's 100% a bad thing about him, and that's the kind of legacy we'll leave behind. So,
for maybe a Bears fan.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and best wishes to Yoop, and his family's going through a little something right now. So hopefully everything's good there.
Yeah. So let's start the. Well, I know the podcast started on kind of a sour or heavier note, but not sour note, but a heavy note. But let's talk some baseball here. The Tigers were off today for the first off day of spring, but there is plenty to get to. Uper wanted to talk about some of the division opponents, and so I think I do want to talk about that a little bit tonight. Cleveland. I think we'll start with Kansas City. I think I want to start with Kansas City. We'll look at Kansas City. We talk a little bit about the spring breakout game, which is coming up on March 16th. There's a podcast that we just did for Tiger Minor Report that will kind of break down the roster a little bit more, but we can glance over the game and also the kind of the position where the position battles stand right now as they stand, or where they're at right now. It's been. We'll start there with the battle of. I don't want to say the last. Is this the last hurrah of Matt Manning? Matt Manning got lit up pretty bad yesterday. And there's just kind of like this. We had Dan Dickerson on the Tiger Minor League Report podcast, and so if you want to check that out on YouTube or wherever you listen to, and he said something really interesting, to us about that. Matt Manning feels like his days here. Paraphrasing what Dan said, his days were going to be up here, and that the organization feels like it's moving in a different direction. But I don't know. I'll start with you, Chris. I don't know if you saw any of his start yesterday, but
yeah,
is it time to say goodbye to Matt Manning?
I mean, probably it's a bummer, for such an athletic dude, 6'5", 6'6", legitimate basketball player. His dad was in the NBA, and he fields his position really well. When you see him after he pitches, he's just his delivery just looks so clunky and unathletic to me. And I don't know what it's like. He's trapped in his head, and he's hitting these checkpoints as he comes over, and he's just not throwing strikes at all anymore, which was never his issue, right? Like, he used to throw strikes, he just couldn't miss bats. And I don't know. I just think he's flailing for anything right now, and unfortunately, nothing's working. Right? His fastball still 93, 94. Who knows? He was a guy who was up to 97, 98 consistently like 4 years ago. Yeah, and give it up 2 home runs, I think, in this one, and multiple walks. It's just rough. You don't want to make too much out of spring training, but like it's hard to look at him and see anything that's terribly positive.
So
go ahead, Mike.
I think it might be time, just because there's been a roster spot there for him to take for a long time. It was there all last season, I think. I mean, maybe not the whole season, but realistically, if they thought he was at a point where he could help the team, they could have used him, and they never did. And I think that tells you what the organization felt about him, going into all this. So you say not to put a bunch into spring training, but I think he was one of the guys that probably most needed a good spring training, just because of where they were at going into it, So I do think it's time. I hate to be cliche, but maybe a change of scenery is what he needs, because it just feels like it's been right there for him. Like, the team's been begging him to take it. He wants it, and he can never. He hasn't latched on, and it just feels like if it hasn't happened now, it just doesn't feel like it's there anymore. Soured already.
What about you, Ashley?
I mean, I agree with what you guys said. Obviously we have a lot of organizational depth at this point, pitching wise. And if he, he's had a while and it's kind of like either, what, or get off the pot. And it's been a while. Like Chris mentioned, that velo's going down, not good signs. Hopefully maybe another club can take him and utilize him and, help him reach his potential. But, at this point, I don't think it's going to be us.
Yeah, I mean, a tall tale sign of this last year was when he got passed over in Toledo. I mean, when they brought up everybody but him towards the end of the season, and guys like Brant Herter, who, I mean, justifiably so, they deserved an opportunity. Same thing with Ty Madden, but Matt Manning was not considered. And so I think Mike Doyle brings up a question: would you bring Matt in trade for starting pitching? I believe that's what it says. You know what? Look, if he can get you a fourth outfielder, that's what you're gonna want, I think.
Right fielder.
Yeah, it's even if another team thinks that they can fix Matt Manning, they're not going to give up on much right now because he doesn't look like he's worth a bunch. So it feels to me like they would have to do like what they did with Faedo. Basically just DFA and then work out some sort of trade where they get an interesting player who's in the lower minors. I don't think they could probably get a big leaguer who's going to help them.
Deadly Ninja Bees with Burger King maybe, but and here's another thing too, and I like what Andrew Scott said. With the Tigers turning into a pitching factory, it begs the question whether Manning ever got over his supposed stubbornness. And that's a great question, Andrew, and I don't know if that's the case, because I think, like I said, we said this before on the podcast, and I don't think you've heard this part, but where we're down in Toledo, and I remember Jim Leland just going, supposed to throw a slider, or fastball, and I'm paraphrasing what he said, but we're right behind.
Why are you throwing a goddamn fastball?
Yeah.
That's basically a great impression.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't even I don't know if I would call it stubbornness at this point, right? Like, they're just, some people just can't change. Like, it's one of the things I talk about with Jackson Jobe all the time is his aptitude, his pitching aptitude, his ability to pick new things up and implement them like instantaneously, seemingly. This year, he's just like, well, yeah, I'll just change to a curveball and I'll throw a sinker that it's, perfectly matches the movement of my changeup. Some people are very good at that sort of thing, and some people can't. Matt Manning, I think, I don't know. He was, like I said, he was a great athlete in high school. He's probably always just really good at pitching and could throw strikes. And then, like, when it comes to like the finer, minute details of baseball, he just might not have it. Which is
I also
bummer.
think. Oh, sorry if you weren't
Go ahead.
done.
Nope, I was done.
I mean, he's 27 years old. He's 6'6". He's 195. I feel like at this point he's done projecting.
Yeah.
Like, he's kind of body wise, he's probably reached his potential. And if he's already dropping in velo, I mean, I don't think that's a good sign. So.
Yeah, I remember back in the day we used to dream on him. Like the comparison people were making was Noah Syndergaard, right? He's gonna be sitting 98, 99, throwing this heavy sinker or whatever, and pitchers break your heart. That's a few years ago I did an article, and it was kind of after the Tigers drafted Jackson Jobe, and it was about how high school pitchers, like the multiple ways that they can break and not work out. And the number one thing was that their stuff just kind of goes away, which it's apparently happens an awful lot, and I don't know why. Maybe it's just as you get older, you stiffen up and you can't throw as hard, you can't spin the ball as well. So I don't know. It is unfortunate. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Spring training's not over. Maybe something clicks for him. I remember a couple of springs ago, right, that Michael Fulmer. No, he was coming off injury. He looked really rough, and then he had one spring outing where he was just like, F it, and just went out there and let it eat. And suddenly he was like, oh, all right, it works again. Like he just had to get upset and let it go. I would have thought Matt Manning would have done that about a dozen times by now, but I don't know.
Yeah, I remember there was concerns when Fulmer started where I think he was losing velocity. He was like sitting at 91, 92. And people were, I remember the kind of freak out on Twitter, like, oh my God, Fulmer, and so I feel like it follows the same lines, but I just don't know. I mean, like just Manning just gotten hit pretty hard. And so a lot of things were just like those pitches he had were just like right over just the heart of the plate. And I know that somebody was trying to say the wind helped with that. And that's probably maybe the case too, but still doesn't matter. I mean, a meatball's a meatball no matter what. And a team or a good hitter, it doesn't matter. Any type of hitter is going to punish that. So, but yeah, there's as far as other storylines go, I know that Josh was talking about the Jamil Jones being the future MVP. He's hit two of the hardest balls he's ever hit of his career. Hit him in one game where the Tigers hit 3 home runs on 6 pitches. Is that correct?
On 3 straight pitches.
3 straight pitches. Yeah, pardon me. 3 pitches. Yeah.
I mean, there were a number of pitches up until Jamai Jones. That was, I drove from Pittsburgh back to Michigan. I stopped at my work. I went inside for 15 minutes, and when I came back out, it was 6-0. It was 0-0 when I went in. I'm like, what in the world happened? Jones hit a grand slam, and then was it Ibanez and Torres followed up with home runs right after that. While ESPN was interviewing the Phillies manager, then that's a tough one. But yeah, like again, you don't want to make too much of spring training, but Jamai Jones really looks like he's going to earn himself a job as. It's kind of what the Tigers needed, right? Like a right-handed hitting outfielder. He seems like another specialist who's going to bomb on left-handed pitching, and he could do some other stuff. So he becomes an interesting player there.
Mike, what about you? I mean, what have you seen from him?
I mean, yeah, I kind of, when I was trying to think of like what we were going to talk about today, I was just thinking anything. He was number one on the list just because like Chris said, they needed somebody to step up. I don't care that it's spring training. You're looking at Matt Vierling, who does play the outfield in some games. They use him for his versatility. I know he's going to play some third too, but that's some outfield time that you're losing. And then with Parker Meadows kind of being uncertain if he is going to be around for opening day at this point, you had to have some sort of outfielder materialize. And I'm just happy that one did. It's not like again, this doesn't mean he's going to be incredible, but it's nice that somebody's trying to step up and clearly sees a path to the roster. And, unlike Matt Manning, they're seizing the opportunity right now is kind of what it feels like.
What about you, Ashley?
So I was just actually looking up like his fielding stats because I wasn't super familiar, and it looks like, I mean, he's, you know, a decent outfielder, and if he, I mean, he's shown power this spring, and if he can hit for power and he can handle the outfield and he can handle, you know, lefties, you know, like Mike just said, that's exactly what we need. So
Yeah, and
I mean,
you know,
if he earns a spot, put him on the team.
for sure. That's you know, there's always somebody in spring who does something like this, and you go, hey, all right, you earned it. And
Mhm.
sometimes it doesn't stop in spring, right? Like it, guys like this, you know, you don't want to call them like by the pejorative 4A player, but they kind of are, right? It's like the Trace Thompson thing or Matt Tuiasosopo back in the day. Like
Mhm.
sometimes those guys they're you know really good baseball players, really good athletes. It's sometimes they get hot and can have a couple good months at the big league level, and then it's just, you know, what separates you from a big leaguer permanently is your ability to adjust and you know, get yourself out of slumps or whatever. But yeah, he's a guy who could, you know, could be the story of the Tigers season, like for the first 2 months, right? Like it's
And
I don't
Akil
think he'd be
Badu
playing every
type.
day. What's that?
An Akil Badu type, perhaps.
Yeah.
Come up, you
Or
know, have your time to shine, and then it reminds me of what I tweeted the other day about like, what I don't remember the exact wording, but I said something about, what if I told you that C1s and C2s are just important to your team as A's and B's. I mean, you got to have those guys. You got to have those versatile guys.
yeah. You know, I remember the Quentin Berry experience for the first couple months of
Mhm.
that one
I love
season. Like,
Quentin Perry,
like, oh,
yes.
he's a catalyst, and then he, you know, it
Brennan
didn't stick.
Bosch.
Yeah, we've seen it. You know, Chris Shelton's a famous one too, right? Like it's sometimes guys can contribute, and it just doesn't last. But you take it when you get it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean that's been a good story so far, and I don't think, and we talked before. I think to clear a roster spot, they'll probably just put Sawyer Gibson Long on the 60-day IL. I don't, you know, sometimes it gets a little funky. They don't want to. I think Gibson Long was still on the big league roster. Like sometimes they don't want to put guys who are in the minors on the 60-day IL because it gives them service time. I don't know. It's weird, but I think that's probably what they'll do rather than, you know, cut somebody.
Boom, bada boom, bada bring brings up Sterling Marte, because the Royals have been showing an interest in him because he's in his final year of his contract with the Mets. But the one thing that you don't want is another outfielder with injuries, because, mind you, the Mets would pick up a lot of his contract, but the knees are an issue with Marte, I believe.
Yeah, I mean he was, you know, in his prime, he was very fast and very exciting outfielder. I think he's basically a DH now, and he's making what, $20 million.
Yeah,
I mean, you would think the Mets would eat a lot of that, but yeah, I mean there are people out there, but I don't think any of them are clear upgrades over somebody you can, like a replacement type player. We talk, you know, I mentioned Jake Marisnik before, or Ryan Valade. Like some of the guys we've seen before, if they don't make the teams they're with right now, they could show back up.
yeah. Ryan Newcastle comes to mind too, I believe.
Mountcastle.
Mountcastle. Yeah. Mountcastle's a free agent, but it just seems like it's stopgap measures. And Jones, look, I'm fine with if Jones makes the team. I have no issue with it whatsoever. It's just a question of, then from there is just the biggest question is how healthy Parker Meadows and Matt Verling are. That's the most important thing. Jones, if Jones makes a team, great. Then it's a good holdover, and you're able to go out there and at least, you know, hit once a game, you know, get a couple hits here and there during the week and show some power. Great, and be serviceable. But it's just the Tigers can afford another injury to their outfield, and so you just hope that whatever's going on with Parker Meadows is just something that will be resolved in time, because I think that Parker Meadows has been projected to have a really good season. He is a difference maker in the outfield. So that, to me, I mean, don't get me wrong, having Matt Verling is healthy is very important as well, just as important as Parker Meadows. But if you're gonna have two of them down, I mean, that's still gonna limit you a little bit offensively, because I still think the Tigers should pursue another right-handed bat. Again, it's almost like I said, I've been pounding this drum since December. Get another outfielder. Get another outfielder. Get another outfielder. That's not like a broken record, but it's just a matter of looking at the situation. They gave Bill Malgeri a couple runs out there. You've seen Andrew Navigado that play left field now, almost exclusively now, the last couple of games, right? I believe.
Yeah, I think so. And we've seen, Kreidler's been in center multiple times in a row. Like they're just, making sure that they have options. Um, and we talked about this before. Like a couple of years ago, we were all trying to figure out, who was going to make the roster, and then they traded for McKinstry at the very end of spring. It was like, oh, none of it mattered. They just went out and traded for somebody. So that may be what happens. I don't know. You got to be pretty impressed with what Jones has done so far, but spring is spring, and who knows what kind of benchmarks they're looking at to actually add somebody.
Yeah, I would be interested to see that, because I would, again, even when the other day Chris retweeted that Jordan Walker was leaving the game early, and then realized that it was because he stepped on a sprinkler head and hurt his knee.
I was joking around that it was spring hug watch, which doesn't exist. But that's a bummer. Like I hate stuff like that. Just silly injuries that are nobody's fault, but it's annoying.
Yeah, meanwhile, the other storyline that I want to mention real quick too is Gage Workman's off to a really good start with the Cubs. But again, it's almost like you don't want, like, Cubs fans are saying, oh, this guy's going to be the future, but it's like it's spring training. This is Gage Workman is in his home state of Arizona. There's a comfortability factor too as well. That's something to consider. But we got asked the other day if he's coming back. I don't think he's coming back.
I mean, you could very easily see a scenario where these kind of problems cancel each other out, right? Like the Cubs want to keep Workman, but they can't fit him on the roster, so they try to work out a trade with the Tigers and say, hey, we've got this, AAA outfielder. Do you want another outfielder? And the Tigers might go, sure. I haven't, poured over the roster. I know that they've got a pretty solid farm system and a lot of guys at, AA and higher. I don't think they're going to get it like Owen Casey for Gage Workman, but I don't know. They might be able to get somebody decent. So we'll see. We'll see with that. Somebody else was bringing up Liam Hicks hasn't done much of anything in spring apparently, but as you said, that was basically Miami's only move. So he's probably going to stay.
Maybe a guy like who's on their 40-man roster right now, Kevin Alcantara. But yeah, I don't see that happening. He's young and
they got him from the Yankees a few years back.
So I don't see that like as a possibility. But I mean, he wasn't. I mean, he had he only had a cup of coffee last year with the Cubs. So we'll see. I mean, anything's possible. It just the reason why I want to bring up Gage Workman is because kudos to him. He's off to a really good start and seeing the ball extremely well. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I didn't know where you were heading with this. I just wanted to point out how good Reese Olson looked.
Yes.
The other day. Yeah.
Let's start there.
Yeah. I mean, he's another guy. We kind of touched on this last week. I don't know if it was it you, Raj, that talked about him being kind of the next factor?
Yep. Yes, I did.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's a guy who's just keeps getting better and better. And it's kind of wild because he's just such a little sweet apple-cheeked young man, and he's got the heart of an assassin. He's going to come out and slit your throat from behind. It's like his stuff is nasty. I think Ashley talked about, before the season, talking with your scout buddy, I think it was about, maybe he should add a cutter, or maybe he should do some other things with the fastball. And I think he has done that a little bit. I don't know.
He added a cutter?
I don't know if he added a cutter. He's changed his fastball a little bit.
I think my idea was, why doesn't he add a cutter? And I know there's all kinds of other factors that determine that, whether they're a pronator, supinator, all that kind of stuff, how it actually feels on their hand, their aptitude, all of that. But my idea was, why doesn't he add a cutter? Because I was looking at Corbin Burns and his arsenal. It's very similar, obviously, two very different players. But that was my idea. And his idea was having, like, what do you say? I think he said adding a sweeper and then having the slider like cut a little more was his idea. So I mean, both good ideas, but again, like, we don't really know like the analytics of what goes on behind the scenes, the pronation, supination thing, and whatever million other factors a front office or player development team looks at when they add something like that. But yeah, it's an interesting point.
So in they were interviewing Tarek Skubal while he was pitching. And like he said something like, I think you're going to see something really cool here.
Yeah, I noticed that. What are you talking about?
And like I feel like Olson must have been working on it. The only thing I see, I'm looking at his StatCast data. He's throwing harder this year, which okay, that's good. But it looks like his changeup has 3 more inches of horizontal break.
Oh, his changeup was filthy.
I've always liked his changeup, but yeah, if he's added some more, and that was a count where you think you might have seen that. So I don't know if there's something fun. I don't know if that's a kick change or whatever people are talking about. But I don't know. We'll see if something fun has come.
You said
there.
horizontal.
Yeah, kick change more vertical.
Oh, no. I was asking, you said that his changeup was more horizontal the other day. I didn't get a chance to watch. I've been having a busy week.
Yeah, just looking at on the player breakdown on Savant, it's 3 more inches of horizontal break on average.
Okay, because I'm looking at his pitch plot right now. And I mean, he already has, obviously good velo separation, a little bit of shape separation, but yeah, adding even more horizontal. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with this year. I mean, we saw flashes of him being great last year, but I'm excited to see him this year. A lot of room for development.
The fade action he had on that pitch too, like especially against lefties, like the way he was just able to attack lefties like that, that was impressive to see. And that's something that, especially if you have that slider, if you can throw that slider on the back foot and then maybe use a change to go back out on the outside part of the plate, that's going to definitely serve well. We got 2 questions in here, one from Stan and one from Bada Boom Bada Bing, and he goes, "Can anybody explain to me why the Tigers are known to have such a spectacular pitching lab? They failed with Joey Wentz, and they're in danger of failing Matt Manning." Stan, that's a good question, but I think it's just really, I think it comes down to 2 things. One, if they can only do so much, if they give them the tools and they can't execute it, then it's not. I mean, some guys get it, some guys don't, and I think that like something last year, and I was talking, Cody Saberhagen texted me the other day regarding, I believe I can't remember what pitch it was now. It was I think it was a slider. No, it was changeups. I think it was changeups and like arm angles.
I think it was sinkers, right? Like
sinkers.
Like in the middle of August, something funky happened.
Yeah, and like just like they just, especially a pitch that was. And we're trying to look at arm angles or anything the Tigers changed. And the Tigers we're working with arm angles. You could tell the various degrees. Like the one that had the biggest change in arm angle from the beginning of the season till the end of the season was Kyder Montero. So they're showing some of those things with that. And it was interesting. It was just interesting because, they were unhittable with the sinker after August 11th. And Brisky comes to mind on that because Brisky was his pitching got better with that. And so, honestly, Stan, it's just a matter of execution. There's guys like Torkelson who are just, you hear that they're stubborn or that they believe their way works. I mean, it took a while with Gage Workman. I remember we were hearing that Gage Workman. It took a good while before Workman decided just to go left-handed, and the Tigers kind of were recommending this plan, and he started sticking with it consistently. So that could be the case.
Well, but I mean, he just kind of cherry picked 2 names, like what about the fact that they developed Skubal into a Cy Young award-winning pitcher? Like, you can kind of go both ways with they've got some stinkers, but they're also developing a very, very good core of young pitching as well. So I don't know. I just kind of an odd cherry picking moment for Stan there, I thought.
Well, I think we discussed these 2 a couple of weeks ago because I remember Ashley saying that, your Pirates friend thought that they were doing some fun things with Wentz.
Mm-hmm.
But
in fastball or something.
In my mind, both he and Manning are kind of clunky. They've got kind of these clunky deliveries that just don't feel smooth to me. And one thing I think about, neither of those guys, a lot of these guys weren't, they predate Scott Harris and the new regime. But I think there's that sort of meshing of scouting and drafting and development that we see. We've definitely seen it on the offensive side. The Tigers the last couple of years, they're targeting all these up the middle players with good hit tools because I think that they know that that's what they can take those core skills and develop the things around them. And I think, it may be that guys like Wentz and Manning, Robin Lund is really great at helping these guys turn their movements and getting more ground forces to take the pressure off their arm and throw harder. but they might not be great with getting guys to like kind of sort of loosen up and be more athletic in their delivery. I don't know. There are certain things you can't be all things to all people, and some guys just don't work.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. I think also, baseball, the whole industry is a risk, right? Like you said, the scouts, scout can go out and scout somebody and project them to be a B1. I mean, scouts are wrong all the time, right? And then, so after scouting, you go into player development. A player development can coach somebody, guide them all day long. That might not work out, but then they might go to another team, and that team might have a different specialty, be able to help that guy. I don't think it's fair to necessarily point fingers at, if we had a habitual problem with pitchers not working out, I would say, okay, maybe, what's going on the pitching player development side. But I think, like you said, at the end of the day, it's important to remember just not everybody's going to work out. It's just not going to happen. There's risk involved. People are human. It's not like machines making these pitches or machines coaching. There's error, there's human error, there's maybe guys not listening, there's maybe it might come down to a player development strategy that's just not working for a certain guy, that they might go to another team and they might have a different sort of a model that might work for that guy. So
and I think that's part of the reason why you're seeing the size of coaching staffs grow. The Tigers have 3 hitting coaches now. They've got multiple pitching people. Like, you try to all be pulling in the same direction, but sometimes you need a different voice or a different perspective. And that's why, it cracks me up when we see Teacher Man, Richard Schenck, just going to town, just yelling at everybody on Twitter about like, your swing sucks, my swing's great. Like, and everybody hates him. And it's like, you know what? That weird swing might work for a couple people. It seems to be working for Kerry Carpenter and stuff like that, but it's not for everyone. It didn't work for Jake Robson. He got to the big leagues, but he didn't stick. And maybe some guys just can't do the things you're asking them to.
And I think teams can look all day too at stuff like biomechanical data. Obviously that, sort of analytics, I guess, thing or whatever. Analytics have gotten a lot more prominent in the last couple of years, but at the end of the day, sometimes it's not even analytics. Like sometimes it's, how does that guy feel? What's going on in his head? What's going on with him mentally? Does he have something going on at home? I think there's a lot of external factors that we don't think about when something with a player doesn't work out. And we like to point fingers. I think that's human nature, but sometimes I think it's not fair to do that necessarily.
Yeah. And like, I think that's a good point too, is that these are people. They have other things going on in their life. We hear some people have the talent to be big leaguers, but they can't survive the minor league environment. That playing games every night, getting out, you got nowhere to eat, there's nothing to do. So what do you start drinking or something like that? And it spirals. It's just, it's tough. It's not a glamorous lifestyle in the minors. And, it's not built for everybody. These people are people. They're going to have issues no matter what.
Yeah, it was when Roger Clemens was on the other day talking to Cody, who was playing first, and doing back and forth conversation. One of the things they brought about, he goes, Roger's like, yeah, we didn't have lobster and shrimp in our clubhouse compared to what you have. And he was kind of making a joke, but he's right. I mean, the minors are a far cry than they were 30, 40 years ago, which brings up what Sam was saying. It is one of those things where like the Tigers do have a way better track record developing for pitching. And you can go on kind of one hand from 1985 on how many Tiger development wins they had in pitching. Justin Verlander, and that's really about it. I mean, honestly, until Rick Porcello, I'm just talking like guys that they brought up, like Rick Porcello comes to mind too. But honest to God, like sustainable success. Justin Thompson doesn't count because he would have been great, but he blew his arm out. Yeah. So Jeff Weaver was okay. Yeah. He never was as good as it seemed like he should be, but it's probably because of all the weed smoking and ass grabbing. Yeah. Allegedly. Yeah. Allegedly. Yeah. But no, it's one of those it's just one of those like Justin Thompson's delivery, for example, that it was destined. If you look at his delivery, it was like everything was all on his arm. It was just like, but no, it's Max Scherzer. Is that Chris Scipione? Hey, it's Chris Scipione. Shout out to Chris Scipione.
Who's that? Who's Chris Scipione?
Oh, it's one of my oldest friends from high school.
Nice.
He's been a friend of mine since my freshman year in high school. We met playing soccer. So
Sweet.
he's a longtime
Welcome,
friend.
Chris.
Welcome, Chris. Also former Allen Park All-Star Little Leaguer, Chris Scipione. We actually bonded over baseball too. But anyway, Scherzer comes to mind too in a sense of like he got better himself, because you remember Scherzer went down to Toledo, was like, hey, I watched the videotape. I got better on his own. Like, he was the one that went out of his way to work on his game, right? Correct me if I'm wrong about that. Like,
I think, I recall, he watched some video or whatever, and then he came back and struck out like 13 in 4 innings or something crazy like that. The math doesn't work there, but it was a lot in a few innings. But, even Scherzer, he won a Cy Young here, but he got better when he went to Washington. Like, he continued to get better. And yeah, I don't know. Like, and I don't necessarily consider him a Tigers development story. I guess you could a little bit, but he drafted by the Diamondbacks, cut his teeth in Missouri with Mike.
Kudos to me.
Yes.
Funniest drops.
Oh, that's right. And yeah, kudos to me for going out there and playing well.
It's always funny. Like, it doesn't matter how much time passes. That's like, he could be the greatest pitcher of all time, and that's the first thing I think of when I think of Max Scherzer.
No, Sam brings up a good point. He said that once his brother, I actually no one, you know what, I did not know about his brother.
I forgot about that. Yeah. His brother took his own life, unfortunately, I think.
Oh wow. Okay. So
again, we talk about people. Life's not easy for anybody.
Yeah. So it's a good sociology lesson for everybody out there. Ironically, I bring that up actually because you brought up sociology in our conversation yesterday.
Yeah.
So that's why, it was just like top of mind.
Sociologist.
So, but as far as starting pitching goes, though, his rotation right now, I think it's changed quite a bit. I think I do want to talk about Casey Mize' performance, too. Casey Mize has pitched very well, and he's making it harder. Like, some people think they're like theorize that he might be a reliever. But honestly, like, he's putting together some really good performances. The increased velocity is there. I don't know what you guys think, but I if I'm looking at my rotation right now, I'm looking at it as Skubal, Flaherty, Olson, Mize, and you know what? I know this is gonna sound weird, but I really think Montero over Job. And the only
That's my guy too.
The only reason why I say that too is because Job still, I don't know, like Job. It's not that Job's bad or anything. I'm not saying that, but I still think he still needs a little more fine tuning. Not that much, but just a little bit.
I don't know if you guys follow Pitch Profiler, but if you saw the thing that he tweeted the other day about Kaider Montero, and his Pro Stuff Plus was 120 on both his slider and his sinker and his change, actually.
Yeah, and the sinker was something that he shelved it last year until like halfway through when he was in the big leagues. Because I remember we saw him in Erie. I'm like, I think he's throwing a sinker and a four-seamer. I put it in the scouting report. He got to Toledo. It never showed up in StatCast. I'm like, well, I guess I was wrong. And then comes back and gets the big leagues. And he's like, oh yeah, I brought the sinker back. You're like, you son of a bitch. But yeah, like, I don't know. Like, Job deserves a spot. Mize deserves a spot. Montero deserves a spot. Maeda has pitched really well.
Yeah.
He's got like 15 strikeouts in 8 innings or something like that. Like, it's a really it's going to be really close to see who gets picked there. I have a hard time not seeing Job make it. Even like he does, like you said, there's stuff he needs to work on. He's still, even with this ridiculous stuff, he doesn't get a ton of swings and misses. It's just not, in his game right now. But you feel like you just have to have him up and figure it out at the big league level, because the arm talent is just so extreme. But it's not like Montero's that far behind. We talked about it a couple years ago. Like, from a pure stuff standpoint, he's like right behind Job. Right, he's spinning the ball 3,000 RPMs. He's got a nice changeup. He's got a mid 90s fastball. It's really good stuff. These are good problems to have.
Great problems. I was just thinking that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I know Montero was throwing this. He started throwing the sinker more towards his tail end of his days at West Michigan, and that's what that was kind of his bread and butter pitch too, because he wasn't really much of a strikeout pitcher. He started becoming more of a strikeout pitcher shortly. I think it was like towards because it was the second year in West Michigan or third year in West Michigan. I felt like he was there for a while.
I'm trying to remember. We went to the opening day start the one year, and he got hit by a comebacker and had to come out of the game. And then
that's right. Yeah.
I think that was his second year at West Michigan.
Yeah,
that would have been 21, and then 22. 22 was his second year, and then he started 23 there as well. And then that's the year he took off. Like halfway through, he got up to Erie, and then I think he went to Toledo that year too.
He went to Toledo. Yeah, he went 3 levels. With levels that year. Yeah.
So I know it's been a long time coming for him, but I mean, he's a really exciting player. And again, like with pitching, sometimes these things work themselves out. Unfortunately, somebody might strain a lat or stub a toe or have a broken fingernail or whatever, and you got to go on the IL for a week.
Hurt themselves playing Guitar Hero.
Yes,
allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Moving boxes for a forest fire on your dirt bike.
I have a really funny story to tell you guys off air.
All right.
Oh,
Remind me. It has to do with pitching.
Nice. I can't wait for that. But so Ashley, what about you? It's just your like starting rotation right as of right now. I know this has probably changed a little bit in the last few weeks.
God, it has. It's hard. I mean, obviously, Skubal, Flaherty, Olson are a given. I think like I do agree with you that Job needs some fine tuning, but then it's also like, but could he get that in the big leagues? Or like, what are they thinking as far as like rookie of the year? Because I know we get like is it an extra draft pick or something? I'm not super familiar.
Yeah, you get a pick right at the end of the first round, so it would be like a top 35 pick.
So I don't know what they're thinking as far as that goes, but I mean, obviously Montero had a good outing, Mize had a good outing, Maeda's been great. I don't have an opinion right now. Like, I feel like I need to see a little bit more because, and something could change. Like, what if next time Casey Mize has an awful outing? What if next time, Job has an awful, I feel like I need until the end of spring,
Well, I mean, it's that close. It was that close last year with Mize, Manning, and Olson, I think. And then they, they kind of surprisingly said, yeah, Olson's got a spot. And it was down to Mize and Manning. And it ultimately came down. And Mize didn't look all that great, but he wasn't giving up home runs like Manning was. So it could be something just like that. Somebody struggles for a couple outings, and that's going to be all it takes to get sent to Toledo, which is unfortunate. But we're going to see them all this year, I think. It's just the way it goes.
Absolutely.
I have just this really strong feeling that Kenta Maeda is going to end up being the 5th starter. They're giving him a lot of run in spring. He has the most innings out of any of the pitchers. I know it's spring. I'm always going to give that caveat, but I just feel like they're going to look to squeeze anything they can out of him. I know that they made a big deal about him starting his offseason program a lot earlier this year. And just knowing that, and that he's essentially playing for his career at this point, he's getting up there in an age, and if it doesn't work out here, who knows how much he's got left. So I just, and with Job's whole service time thing, and I don't know, there's just a huge part of me that sees Kenta Maeda at least making a couple starts at the beginning.
The thing is, Stan, I'm waiting for them to do a trade. I really am. I still, like I said, that's another thing I've been a broken record about, like that if they're going to make a trade to address another issue they have, and it could be possible. I think what's going to happen is, as Chris said earlier, I think there's going to be some roster issues that are going to sort themselves out relatively quickly. And here's like, I think they'll address some sort of position they need their weakness on, especially in the outfield right now. Defensively speaking too, we're talking about like so far, Cole Keefe has looked pretty well at first base. I think there are a couple things that maybe they want to shore up. But honestly, it's just it is a good problem to have. I mean, in terms of cuts, they did, by the way, Wilmer Flores hasn't pitched yet. He won't be scheduled to pitch till I think next week or the week after that. Go back. There's another cut. I'm trying to remember.
They, who is it? Wilkel Hernandez, Eddie's Leonard.
Wilmer Flores. I think there's one. I'm just trying to remember the fourth. There's a fourth one, I believe, right?
Yeah. Who was it? I don't know. But yeah, we're gonna see. We'll see more soon, right? Like it's we talked about before. Like the minor league games are going to start up soon, and so they want those guys there playing every day, getting a bunch of at bats to get ready for the minor league season. And conversely, that means we'll probably start seeing a few more of the younger Tigerstown people popping over for an at bat or two. We might see like, hey, it's Brett Callahan, McGonagall's getting an at bat, things like that. So that'll be fun for us. But that they start happening like the 8th inning, which is a bummer.
Yeah,
but.
It'll happen too. I guarantee it'll happen when there's no TV or no radio on either. I'll definitely
always.
Well, you know what? AJ Hinch is really good about that stuff. Like he knows whenever a player is like going up against a former team or something like that, he makes sure to get them in the game, or like he's good at that stuff, and he knows what the fans want to see. Remember last year that there was like, oh, we're going to get Jackson Jobe into a game. And so we're sitting and waiting, and he finally puts him in the 9th inning. It's a televised game, and so everybody gets to see it, and Jobe looks monstrous. And so I think he knows enough to everybody wants to see these guys. If they play, we're going to put them in a game where people can see them.
Yeah, especially a guy like McGonagall we've been talking about for 2 years now. I mean, he's mentioning McGonagall since day one. I mean, it's not like it's specifically McGonagall that he's always like Kevin McGonagall. He did it at the end of the year press conference. He did it 2 years ago in Lakeland. I mean, this is something I remember in spring training. And there's actually an outside chance I might be going to that spring training breakout game now. So things are lining up.
Nice.
But I guess they're canceling flights out of Orlando because of space debris falling. So I might drive down there, and it might be safer to drive for once.
I think it's just for the next probably 48 hours. I don't think the space debris is going to continue to fall. Hopefully. Who knows? Maybe but yeah, I mean that'd be awesome if you're down there, because that's like a pinnacle of for us. That would be awesome. Yeah, we just did a podcast right before this talking about those rosters and having fun with that. The Tigers. We're speculating that the Tigers might have more top 100 prospects on their spring breakout roster than any other team.
Yeah,
but again, pure speculation. I did want to just briefly mention a couple. The game the other day was pretty outstanding. In terms of just fun things happening, and how like the one rally started because Javi Baez protested a strike 3 and he was right, and then he walked, and then that set off the 6-run inning. It's like, well, hey, that's fun. Javi does have a bit of an eye. He just doesn't use it very often. And then Tomas Nido.
Yeah, I was looking up the box score because when you said that, I was like, I don't think he meant Baez, but I got to look it up to be sure.
Javi Baez, he got called out on strikes, and he protested it, and he was right, and then he drew a walk, and that kicked off the whole rally. But I also wanted to mention Tomas Nido hit 2 home runs. I don't think he's going to make the roster, but I would not hate it if he's in Toledo because most years you need a third catcher. The Tigers didn't last year. I mean, I guess they did technically once.
Well, Steven
Scott
came
up and when they traded Kelly away, but usually during the course of the year, catcher is going to get dinged up a little bit. So I wouldn't mind having Tomas Nido there because he's got some experience, and he's not that old. He's only 30. So
what? I just thought about something too, Chris. I just realized we haven't seen Steven Scott at all.
No, haven't. And yeah, I don't know. Did he? How much did he catch last year? I know he must have caught a fair
must have
amount,
been more like he got more time at first base when Dingler started playing more. So he started he split time a lot more at first base last year as before Dingler got called up. But I know that I'm trying to think of and they also have that Kevin. They had that guy from the Blue Jays they signed too. Kevin, who's the other guy in camp right now? For the Tigers that made an appearance. They got confused with the home run the other day when he came in. When
Brian Servin?
Yeah, Brian Servant. Sorry, Brian.
Yeah.
Servant.
He was. I think. Yeah, he's another veteran catcher. Yeah, that's got some big league time. It's nice to have those guys around.
The fourth dude that the Tigers cut from camp was a catcher, Elizer Alfonso.
Thank you.
Alfonso, yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, and he got into a couple games, got some knocks, but I don't know if he actually caught any. Maybe a game or two. It's fun seeing those guys. Mendoza, every time he comes in, does something good.
Yeah,
because that's who he is. But in tomorrow's game, it's a night game against the Orioles with Montero on the mound. That should be fun. I can watch it.
Yeah,
theoretically. I don't know.
Yeah, it's gonna be. That's in Lakeland, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking to see if it's actually on. Yeah, it's on MLB Network and an FDSN DTX, whatever that is.
Detroit.
FanDuel Sports Network. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. 6:05, Chris. Yeah, so we'll be able to watch it tomorrow, and it's not gonna watch it during work hours. Which I mean, if my work really knew what I was, well, never mind.
If your work only knew.
I'm doing a good job at work. It works good. No, but I put on my glasses because when Ashley made that cataracts comment, it made me realize that maybe it's like simple thing that Javi Baez needs is in like major league. He just starts wearing glasses and he gets significantly better, like Charlie Sheen's character did. Like Vaughn.
Is his contact prescription the correct prescription?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but like the thing is too, there was another storyline too I wanted to mention. Speaking of Javier Baez, Trey Sweeney looked like he broke out of his slump and has been hitting the ball extremely well, and so that bodes well for that platoon that the Tigers want to do with. And I think one of the things about Trey Sweeney, and they signed, by the way, the Tigers signed a guy by the name of Jack Dunn for the Nationals. For anybody who watches a lot of Big Ten baseball, and maybe I know there's somebody out there that does that. He played his ball at short. He played short at Northwestern University before being drafted in the 20th round by the Nationals. He has got a good arm on him, good glove. Seems like a glove first shortstop, but gives the Tigers no option, which makes me think too. With like, I know people were complaining about Ryan Kreidler. Look, Ryan Kreidler has had some bad luck getting hit in the hand and everything, but he's serviceable. Guy can play multiple positions.
If you're a big leaguer and you can play quality defense at shortstop and center field, I should say, if you could play quality big league defense at a shortstop and center field, you're going to have jobs or get interest because that's hard to come by. So, no, he's never hit. I think he's a better hitter than he's ever shown, but I don't know how much better. But yeah, I'm happy they're still giving him a look.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have an issue with Ryan Kreidler. Matt wants to know: is there any issues with Jace Jung not hitting much? Are you guys worried about that? Ashley, you worried about that?
A little bit. I feel like he hasn't done much since the day he had those 2 doubles, right?
Those are the only 2 hits of the spring.
Yeah. It's a little bit concerning. I try not to look too much into spring. Again, like I know it's a time when, guys are trying new things out. If they're going to try something, they're probably going to try it now. So I try not to look too much into it, but I'm not going to lie, it's been on my mind a little bit.
I think he's playing good defense, so I'm not really worried about his hitting. So I'm the fact he's playing a solid third base, I think is okay. So to me, it's more important that he gets the glove down versus his offense. I think his offense will come, but I don't really. It's just making those making those good throws from third, side to side. That everything's good there. That's to me the most important thing.
And he was scouted as what? Was it a 55 bat and a 60 power or a 55-55?
Depends on where you look. I think Pipeline probably had him as a 60-60.
Okay.
I have him.
Maybe you're right. That'll come. He's young.
I've always been like the low man on him offensively. Yeah. I have him as like a 40 hit, 55 power. And part of that is, and it's one of the things that's just tough to shake, is like the first 6 times I saw him live, he didn't do anything. We did catch his first pro home run, but it was like he ambushed a 92 mile an hour fastball on the first pitch. And I've seen him, like the best stretch of his pro baseball career was like the final 2 months of 2023. I want to say down Well, he was in Erie, I think, right? He
Oh,
came
yeah.
up from West Michigan and went bonkers in Erie, and I missed all that. I didn't see any of that in person, but earlier that year I saw him, and it always felt to me like anybody who can throw mid-90s in the zone and then bury a slider under his hands is going to be able to get him out. And there are a lot of guys who can do that, but not everybody can do that. So I don't know. It's everybody else seems to think that he can hit and he's going to be an offensive player. And he doesn't expand the zone much. So he's got a great eye. If he could just make a little bit more hard contact in the zone, I think he'll be fine. But I'm still a little bit skeptical about that. I need to see it. At the same time, not too concerned about spring training, right? Like you just mentioned, Trey Sweeney hadn't done anything, and then he got 4 hits and like 5 at bats, and it's like suddenly, oh, he's fine. So it's spring. Well, if he's still struggling in another 2 weeks, then maybe that's an issue. But I'm not too worried just yet.
I think you're a good point, Roger, with his defense, because I mean he's gonna be the third baseman. So I am definitely a little more worried about his defense right now than his offense. I just feel like I'm bringing up way too much every show. Like really how barren it is at third base right now, and with Bierling out, he's gonna play. So I'm not worried as much because let's see how he starts the season. Because I mean, that's where he's going to be, at least that's the way I'm looking at it.
And the interesting thing is that Howie Lee's gotten a decent amount of playing time, but it's mostly at second. Like we saw him play some third, and it's just mostly been back at second since then. So I don't know. Like he's looked good at second, so maybe that's just the way they're going to go with it. I still feel like he's got a chance to be a solid third baseman, but there must be something there that's not wanting them to do it. He did hit a ball 112.4 miles per hour the other day, which was we talked about in another pod. That's harder than any ball that Jung or Keith have ever hit. And this is how Lee's got 5 balls in play, but he's already got multiple 110s. So part of that is just how hard he swings. He just swings like a wild man, but and that's also why I think he's got like 8 strikeouts and 16 plate appearances. He's not getting cheated anything. I don't think he's going to be that bad of a strikeout guy. I think he's just really pressing in spring training and trying to do too much. But it was fun to see him connect on that.
Yeah, especially that the play he made the other day at second base against the Pirates.
Yeah,
where we had some people on Twitter going, "Well, that should have been the shortstop that should have grabbed the ball." And
the shortstop. Nobody's going to make that play really. Like either way, the shortstop has to collect it and then kind of re-square himself and throw across his body, and he's not going to get any velocity on it. And at least Lee kind of was able to do that sort of catapult throw where you kind of turn around and throw it over your shoulder. And it was super close against a really fast runner. I don't know. I was impressed by that play, but he didn't get the guy out, so whatever.
Yeah, it was one of those. It was like a bang bang play, and even Dickerson, who we had on, Dickerson thought he had him out.
Yeah, and Dan's like, I'm pretty good at that. And I'm like, yeah, you are, Dan.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Third base, Jace Jung, his job to lose. And yeah, honestly, he has played much better defense than I expected so far. I don't know how well it'll grade out, but he's been passable there, so that's fine.
Yeah,
just got to hit a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, the gloves couldn't go around, and the bottom. Natalie Ninja Beat's bottom 5 infield and baseball isn't too far off right now as it stands, because I felt like defensively they've gotten a little worse, but we'll see. Yeah.
Chris, I just need to say that you on Jung right there, I feel like is one of the most down I've ever heard you on a specific player before. I really feel like you don't like Jung now, and I don't think I've really gotten that much of a distinction from a player, except for maybe Torkelson, but maybe that's not so fair.
No, and again, like I acknowledge part of this was just all my early looks at him were not good, and someone watching him with a scout, and the scout was like, he looks like a third rounder, and I was like, that's not great. And then he performed much better, and everybody else seems to think that he's going to hit. So I don't want to be like, I'm smarter than everybody else. It's just it's something I've never felt great about it. I get like kind of Kristen Stewart vibes at times, where it's like, you know what I mean, like. Just like at a certain point, on base percentage can't be the only thing you do. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, especially because I remember there was a couple of plays and a couple of balls hit really hard, and it was kind of like not running out of the box super hard.
Yeah, and
yeah,
and that's the other thing is that he's dealt with injuries a lot, and so I never I don't know how many times I've actually seen the fully healthy Jace Jung play. So I don't know. I'm in an information deficit at times.
yeah, you're looking pretty good out there. So defensively, so want to give before we get out of here, want to congratulations, Ashley, to your Sabre conference trip. You're getting sponsored for that. You want to give the details of how that's all going to work out for you next week, going down to Arizona for that?
Yeah. So that's I mentioned earlier. I have not been able to watch as much baseball as I've wanted to. It's because I've had a busy week. So for anybody who doesn't know, I got chosen by the MLB Diversity Pipeline Program. They sponsor me to go out to the Sabre Conference next week in Phoenix. So it kind of starts out. We do like some team meetings. Like we had a team meeting earlier today, like a Zoom meeting with a team, and then we have more that start. I think it's next. Because I get into Phoenix Monday. Next Tuesday, we have team meetings all day. Wednesday, team meetings. Thursday, team meetings. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday is the conference. So I will not be on here next week. I will probably be pretty absent off of social media next week, but that's what I'll be doing. So I'm super, super excited.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's
And how can we watch online?
ooh, that I don't know. I'll have to find that out for you.
We might not be able to. I just thought it would be fun to.
I know they sponsored some people virtually, so I don't know that it's available to like everybody online. I don't think.
Yeah, I think there's
Thanks,
a link. I think if you're a Sabre member, there might be a link. I'll have to double check that because I have to check my inbox for that. But that's still pretty cool.
Thank
yeah.
you.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm excited.
Right. It's a very cool opportunity, and I know you're going to crush it because you're good.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So with that in mind, I just wanted to also say, so next week we're going to start doing our team previews. And so we're going to probably have Max Kepler, not Max Kepler.
That'd be amazing.
What's his name?
Whoa.
From the Royals?
Yeah, from the Royals. We're going to start having guests on. And then I know we're going to talk to Justin from Locked On Guardians. And
Max
then
Reaper?
Max,
Is that it?
Max Reaper. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't fear the Reaper. We're going to have him on again. And then we're going to be talking to Justin, and more than likely, I don't know, maybe just Justin. I'm trying to think of the other Lockdown Guardians host. I'm drawing a blank now all of a sudden on people's names.
Our buddy that we
we've
there
had
are counterparts that
they
why are we forgetting his name?
We talked board games with him last time for like an hour
Yeah.
after the podcast, and I'm drawing a blank on his name now.
Yeah, it's real cool stuff.
Yeah.
In any event, our Cleveland buddies.
Yes.
And
we're also talking to James, also for James Fox from the Future Sox as well in the next couple of weeks. So we're going to start previewing the AL Central, take a look around the AL Central. I'll even take a look around the league too. Of course, we have our friends over, Sarah Sanchez over cup of blue.
Cup of Cubby Blue.
Yeah, cup of Cubby Blue.
It's Jeff is our buddy from Cleveland.
Yeah, Jeff. I'm gonna forget Jeff. Yeah, it's been a long week. But yeah, we'll be start preview around the AL Central, of course, and we'll be bringing on various guests and all of that. So looking forward to talking. We haven't really had on some guests in a while, so we're overdue for that. And so go to Tigers ML Report. You can remember every second baseman for the last 100 years, but you can't remember Jeff. That's right. That's absolutely right. You know what? I can tell you the Evansville Triplets last championship was 1979, but I can't remember Jeff. You're right. I can't. I don't.
I couldn't remember either. Yeah, I don't know why. We've probably had him on 10 times. He's been a buddy forever.
Yeah. Brain's mush right now. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And we will talk to you next week. Stay classy, everybody. And thanks again. Ashley, like I said, safe travels next week, and we'll talk to you soon.